lot to like, because where I'm coming from, it's kind of like asking the devil or hell for healing.
Yeah. So we are jumping back into the world of the grim dark.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right.
so
in today's
funny.
video, we are doing part 2 of Bricky's breakdown of factions. And so this one's going to be a little bit more expansive. He's going to talk more about some of the other races that exist in the world of 40K that we haven't discussed already. I know so many of y'all, we were taking suggestions of what direction we should go. And so many of y'all were giving us different groups to talk about. But ultimately, I think a lot of y'all were pushing for us to continue with Bricky's video with part 2 of factions.
Now, how many factions are there?
A lot.
Like thousands or millions?
Well,
hundreds, thousands, millions?
So there would be like main factions, and then there's subgroups of those factions.
Okay.
And so what we're going to focus on right now is just the main factions. And then as we continue to dive deeper into the lore, we'll do some of the subgroups, or we'll focus on just some of the subgroups in particular.
Okay.
But for right now, we're just going to kind of keep things simple for you.
Okay.
That way you can just kind of like get all the knowledge.
Okay.
All right, so you ready?
I have the power. Okay.
Okay. All right, let's go ahead and jump into it. Guys, y'all can leave your thoughts down below in the comment section, but let's go.
Part 2 in a 2-part series on the Warhammer races. If you haven't seen part 1 yet, we do the Imperium of Man. You can check that out in the description, and I would highly recommend you watch that to get context for this episode. If you already have, go ahead and keep on watching. So after an entire episode of nothing but humans, we can now talk about Chaos, which involves humans again, but a little bit less. We also got demons and shit.
I just felt someone grab my ass.
What?
Like hard, Nick.
So, as I've mentioned many times before, we've discussed the warp, the immaterium, the hellish landscape, the purgatory dimension realm between the material realm of our existence.
Really quick.
What?
All right, I'm sorry. All right, so you know in our previous video where we watched the Sisters of Battle, and then she had her arm damaged, and then
she prayed and it healed immediately.
Yeah, they said that wasn't the God Emperor. She was getting like chaotic demonic energy from the warp to heal her.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, so is she compromised?
No, it's just they used the power of the warp.
Oh.
Yeah, so.
Okay.
Welcome to Warhammer.
That's... all right.
Now, in the warp, it's terrifying, horrible. There are demons everywhere. Things are crazy. All your minds and thoughts and emotions get projected there. It is both formless and empty. It is vast and tiny. It obeys the laws of time and physics while simultaneously does absolutely nothing of the sort. It is a hodgepodge and culmination of just unknowable, eldritch, horrifying shit. And there are 4 gods that permeate in Chaos and the Warp. These are the 4 major Chaos gods. And if we wish to learn about Chaos, we need to learn about each and every single one of these Chaos gods. First up, we have Khorne, and he is the easiest. Khorne is your classic Satan. He is all about anger, murder, fighting, blood, guts, death. You ever heard the term blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne? That's Khorne. The whole idea is that he is all about the fury and strength of battle. He doesn't care where blood comes from so long as blood is flowing. He wants to fight and murder and carnage and slaughter and death. That is Khorne. Very simple to understand. Next up, you have Tzeentch, and Tzeentch is the god of change. However, the god of change, it's permeates in so many different other ways. He's the most eldritch of all the demon gods. He has this weird way to always be plucking at the strings of the universe. He's always conniving and scheming and doing his best to cause as much little bullshit as he can. Tzeentch is unknowable. Everything that makes sense, he will and won't do. Every future and setting and every type of destiny or fate is all foretold and also changeable. It is set in stone while also completely random. He knows what everything is going to happen and also that none of it's going to happen. You would ask Tzeentch a question. That question leads to 3 more questions. And those questions lead to the heat death of the universe, which asks 4 answers to those questions. And then he thinks to himself, what are questions even really? And are you even asking the questions? Or are you simply giving paths to answers and other horse shit? Tzeentch is just, I'm gonna fuck with stuff. He is yes and he is no. He is the understanding and he is complexity. He is unknowable. And that's what the God of Change is about. Very bizarre. And he likes birds a lot. I don't know why. Next up, we got Papa Nurgle.
Oh.
Papa Nurgle, he loves you for who you are. Probably not. He will murder you just the same. But Papa Nurgle is about rot, pestilence, death, and decay. He is the end of everything. Him and Tzeentch do not like each other very much because where Tzeentch represents change and adjustment, Nurgle represents stagnation and death. He is all about miasma and pestilence and large bloat and pus and organs and people just being sedentary, sloth. He is the idea that everything will rot and decay and die. Nothing is certain besides decay and death. All of us will end up the same way, and broken down through just sheer never-ending decomposition. So the joke that Nurgle always loves you is generally because of that, because we all end up the same. We all rot, and we all die and wither. That's Nurgle, and he's got a general theme of course, pestilence and...
Are you okay?
That's a bit much.
Yeah, it is.
It's a lot.
Yeah, right.
Very disgusting.
Yeah, chaos demons.
Now, it's kind of like the way they're designed is very interesting. A lot of details. Like, Tzeentch.
Tzeentch,
Tzeentch? He had, like, a stomach
with the mouth in it. Yeah.
Like right above his crotch, and then he had like eyes in his hands, and it's like very scary looking.
Right,
And then you have this, what's the word? It starts with a G when you're like, it's not greedy, but gluttonous.
Gluttonous.
Yeah. And then he's fat, and then he has a mouth. Like, I don't know if that's his stomach or his knees. He's so fat.
Yeah, he's obese.
And it's like, he got stuff coming out of his mouth. Yeah. This is like beyond chaos.
Yes,
like
hell.
Something that you wouldn't even imagine.
Right. Yeah.
It's kind of overwhelming.
It is.
Yeah.
It really makes you think, like, how did they think about this kind of stuff?
Yeah.
If you remember in the episode of Secret Level that we watched, with the demon that was penetrating the minds of the space marines.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was a demon from Tzeentch's side.
Okay.
So
Lilith.
Like, no, it wasn't Lilith.
Oh.
But it was just like a chaos demon.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
And different kinds of diseases and sickness and things of that nature. That's generally Nurgle. He's pretty easy to understand as well.
Sounds fat.
Yeah.
He sounds
He
like
chomped.
a fat.
Finally, we have the
name.
youngest of the Chaos Gods, and that is Slaanesh, also known as the
Slaanesh.
Prince of Pleasure or the God of Unspeakable Excess. Slaanesh is generally referred to with sex, but it's not only sex, it's just that's a good avenue if you want to make stuff. Slaanesh is just the idea of the senses of the body being cranked to not just 11, but more like 17. See, we'll discuss Slaanesh a little bit more when we talk about the Eldar, because they done fucked up, but or whatever is mainly about just the excess of emotions. And therefore sex is generally a large part of it. However, it's mostly pain and torture. Lots of pain, torture, but sometimes sexually related or drug related. Lots of drugs. Slaanesh gets off on everything. Extremes in happiness, extremes in sadness, extremes in pain and sadism and masochism. And of course that goes along with the sex part of it as well. It's generally referred to with sex because of the color scheme, very purple, lots also have exposed genitalia. A lot of their models have like exposed nipples and stuff. And that is generally the theme you go for from a physical side, but it really embodies everything. Mainly pain and also the excessive amounts of emotion. So when it comes down to it, you'll find a lot of them have things like spikes or whips or any kind of BDSM style gear, because it is unspeakable excess, the prince of pleasure, everything in excess to the point where it is just sheer frightening. That is Slaanesh in a nutshell. A little bit bizarre and a little hard to describe sometimes, but as we talk more about the Dark Eldar later in this video, you'll understand it far, far better and far more than you'd want to. Now you might be thinking, why would anyone ever want to join Chaos? They all look horrifying, screwed up, and just frightening things, right? Well, the thing is that, of course, one, your mind is put into the warp and the materium, so you can be easily swayed by chaos demons when they get into your head, especially if you're a psyker. Sometimes regiments of the less mentally strong people, whether they be civilians or say low-level guardsmen or conscripts, can be easily swayed by this and become chaos cultists and stuff, and they serve their dark gods and whatever god they personally prefer. However, and this might seem strange, chaos in their own right isn't necessarily evil. See, the warp is every manifestation of emotion and being, every soul, everything of existence. This includes all the good things. All the different chaos gods have another side to their coin. Khorne might be death, murder, slaughter, slaughter, but he's also got this weird sense of survival of the fittest, trial by combat, and honor. Khorne will never lie to you. Khorne will never stab you in the back. Khorne isn't about conniving and scheming. Khorne is about straight up mano-y-mano, you versus me, get in the ring, we're gonna murder each other hard right now. It may not be a good thing at the end of the day, but it is that other side of the coin. Him and Tzeentch generally don't get along because Tzeentch is that conniving schemer, but he's also about the idea of hope. Where there is change for your predicament. There is change for your problem. The hope of the galaxy, the ability to bend the world to your will, the idea that your fate is not set in stone, but in reality that you control your own destiny and can control it whenever you want, the changer of ways. That is Tzeentch. And of course, Tzeentch and Nurgle hate each other because while Nurgle does represent stagnation, death, and decay, he also represents finality. An ending. The fact that you can be mentally at peace knowing that you will end and how you will end. Fear of the unknown, fear of change is not present with Nurgle. With Nurgle, everything will rot and die, and that provides that finality, that ability that this is over. We are all the same, and we will all end the same. We know the meaning of life. The meaning of life is to live and die and rot. And with that, it brings peace of mind. Slaanesh is a lot more simple. While they are the excess of emotion, they are also the representation of emotion. Slaanesh embodies happiness. Slaanesh embodies excitement and joy and pleasure, not only in the sense of the physical, bam style of pleasure, but also everything else like food and drink and air on your cheek and sunlight, the feeling, emotion and feeling. All of that is also represented with Slaanesh. So you have to ask, why are they always represented as super evil skulls and spikes on everything and want to murder everybody? I don't really got an answer for you on that one. My assumption is that because mentally humans may think worse thoughts even if we don't act on them, and therefore they're projected in the warp more. That one's a little bit weird. I don't know. This is me spitballing right now, but I don't know. You need a super bad guy. You already got the Imperium of Man. You need somebody to be a little bit worse than them. So you got demons. Honestly, who cares? I just want to buy like a bird magician. Look at him. So cool. So combining all this together.
Yes.
So it's okay. That was a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot.
So it's very interesting because like in our world, in our religion, there's good and bad.
Right, yeah.
So like in Christianity, you have Jesus, God, and the angels who are good. Right. And then you have Satan, the devil,
evil, bad,
and the demons who are fallen angels who are bad. And so the fact that they're in the warp and they look horrible, but there's really no good and bad. It just is.
It's good or bad. I mean, it's bad to us. Yeah. In our eyes, to our perspective.
But I think because like in our minds, there's no gray area.
Right. Yeah.
As humans.
Yeah. You're right.
Something has to be good and something has to be bad. But it kind of like surpasses our way of thought, and maybe like because this is so far in the future, like our minds develop into a way where we don't see things as one-sided, you know, because you think about the devil or Satan, he was one of God's angels.
Right, yeah.
So at the time, who was the bad then?
Oh, right. Yeah.
You know, this is what made me think about it.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. And
like, who was there to say that this person, or who's the big evil person,
right?
Before there actually was a Satan,
right?
Okay, right.
Yeah, and so the way they did this is kind of like there really is no good and evil. It's just kind of perspective.
Yeah, right. It's just how you see it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
All right, so what do you think about the Chaos Demons so far, though?
They all look disgusting except for the last one. I really like the way Slaanesh is designed.
Yeah, right.
Very beautiful, very sexy, not as disgusting with mouths everywhere, but since she was covered up, I'm feeling there was like some what do you call them?
You said she.
He, she.
They.
Okay.
There's
a proper word.
It has like both.
Okay. Yeah. I don't want to call them it.
No, it's a chaos.
But
I'm thinking call it it.
I'm thinking like maybe there's phalluses on the stomach.
Yeah.
You know, that's why it was blurred out, and you're just walking around
slanging.
Yeah. You know. Very interesting character.
So that's who you follow.
No, I wouldn't follow any of them. Like the warp seems like a bit much, and I feel like I'm still learning about it, especially since you said that the sister what's her
Sisters of Battle.
The Sisters of Battle, like they're getting healing from the warp.
Yeah, that's what psychers do.
Yeah.
When psychers use their energy, or even the God Emperor, when he uses his energy, they're using the energy from the warp.
Yeah.
That's where they get it from.
Yeah, so it's a lot to like, because where I'm coming from, it's kind of like asking the devil or hell for healing.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's like
that is funny. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just like it was the opposite of what you were saying before, like how people would pray for Jesus to help heal them. Mm-hmm. You'd be like, Satan, heal my arm.
He's like,
and then he does it.
Yeah.
And then what are you gonna do?
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah, very
Tabletop, Chaos Demons are generally very melee based. They run in, go really hard. You have lots of summoning and conjuring, tons of spells. Generally a little bit frail, but they have special saves to make them a little bit stronger. You've got giant demons and smaller demons. You got hordes of little boys and tons of big guys. Demons are as they seem. Demons. Nurgle is slow. Khorne is super scary in melee. You've got Tzeentch, who are far more into psychers and spellcasting, and then Slaanesh, who is all melee, really, really, really fast, but squishy, but in lots of hordes of tons of melee and pain damage, of course. So overall, the demons are a huge part of 40K and a massive threat to almost every single faction, with the exception of a couple. However, the big part about demons is also transferred into the other 9 Primarchs we didn't talk about, which are the Chaos Space Marines.
Look at his belt.
So what's up?
You seen his belt?
Yeah.
It has a screaming face on it, like it's being tortured. And then look at his face.
Yeah.
He got a horn.
So these are just like the Space Marines that we were watching before.
Yeah.
But these are the ones that fall into corruption.
The warp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like when their minds get corrupted and then they become possessed or
Oh, look
evil.
at his arm. His left arm is like a robot.
Yeah.
Oh, and then he has the, what do you call it? The bullets, the magazine.
Yeah.
Wow, it's a lot going on.
Yeah, it's a lot. Slug.
So Horse and all of his boys, all of them in the Primarchs, they have all also become Chaos Boys, and they all have their own special Chaos Legions, specializing in so many different things, just like the Adeptus Astartes, the Angels of Death, the regular Space Marines. Chaos Space Marines aren't a whole lot different than the regular Space Marines. They have the same armor, generally the same training and toughness. They just specialize in different kinds of things. And also a lot of the Primarchs have ascended into greater greater demons? They're demon Primarchs at this point. Gigantic, horrifying man-demon hybrids that are pretty awesome, if I'm gonna be honest. They look really, really cool. But them and their associated legions that they are a part of are all kind of going out there and causing a large ruckus for everyone else. Considering the raw strength and firepower of a legion of Space Marines, imagine that entire legion just converting to chaos and immediately fighting you. It's generally pretty horrifying. There's a lot of them, so I gotta write them down. But you've got the Emperor's Children with Primarch Fulgrim, loyal to Slaanesh. These people, they are some messed up people. They're just sensory overload. Tons of drugs.
He had a skin face. It's like he peeled somebody's skin off and put it.
Oh, yeah. Somebody's face on his armor.
Oh, and he got the Beetlejuice heads hanging. Lord Jesus. Oh.
Messed up people. They're just sensory overload, tons of drugs, tons of torture. And I think Fulgrim is a demon Primarch right now, and oh god, I am terrified to see what that man looks like. At least on the tabletop, because Emperor's Children are not good people. You've got the Iron Warriors, which are kind of like opposite of the Imperial Fists, with Primarch Perturabo, I believe is his name. They're Chaos Undivided. They just kind of serve Chaos in a general aspect instead of choosing one of the four. But the Iron Warriors are big on the siege and fortification, and they're basically entirely against the Imperial Fists and are a major rival. Perturabo, I believe, is also still alive, and I'm also very interested to see what he looks like, because Demon Primarchs are badass. You've got the Night Lords with Primarch Conrad Kurz. Conrad Kurz is dead, which is good because he's a sick fuck. But the Night Lords are generally about terrorizing people and terrorism. They're generally about fear, and rightly so. You've got the World Eaters with Primarch Angron, still alive, also excited to see. Angron, if you think you've known an angry person, Angron is the angriest son of a bitch you will ever know. Angron removed parts of his brain that didn't make him angry, so he could be angrier. Angron. Fucker's mad. You've got the Death Guard with Primarch Mortarion. They actually have their own special codex and their own major army on the tabletop. Mortarion himself is actually one of the models, and look at him.
What is
Look
that?
at him. It's so cool looking. Of course, Nurgle based, obviously. So very slow, but very tanky. You've got the Word Bearers with Primarch Lorgar. Lorgar is, I believe, still alive. I don't know what's up with him at the current moment, but the Word Bearers are generally the people who caused all the major problems in the beginning. At least I blame them for it. They're little assholes. You got the Black Legion with Primarch Horus. Get fucked, nerd. You've got the Alpha Legion with Primarch Alfarius Omegon. Chaos, I think. And then finally, you've got the Thousand Sons with Primarch Magnus the Nerd. The Thousand Sons also have their own book, just like the Death Guard. Magnus is also a tabletop model. He looks super cool, as you can tell. And they're all
like
super heavily psyker and kind of Egyptian.
Looks like he had tusks.
They look pretty neat. But overall, with all of these Chaos Space Marine factions, you can play as a lot of different ones, but the main ones that you can really work at are standard Space Marines, Chaos Space Marines, as well as the Death Guard and Thousand Sons, as they are the most fleshed out, especially on the tabletop at least. See this right here? This is a really good way to describe the Chaos Space Marines. What the thick-headed fools with their broken corpse of an emperor fail to understand is that not only can they never defeat us, but they cannot hide or flee or shield themselves from the triumph of chaos. They are finite and we are unbound, undivided. They must not err, or they shall fall to heresy. All who fall join our cause. Every imperial fool who dares to open his eyes is a willing recruit. They strive merely to hold back our fury and might, and it consumes them. Thus, you can see chaos is inevitable. We lurk not only beyond their grasp and at their gates, we lurk within the darkness of their souls, on the tip of their tongues, in their tortured dreams. We are them, but freed from the shackles of ignorance. We are them, grown strong, evolved.
Ooh,
we are them, but so
evolved.
much more. As hardcore as that quote is, the saddest part is they're mostly right. Chaos is basically unkillable. You could probably get rid of Space Marines, a decent amount, the Chaos Space Marines that is, but every soul that dies goes to the warp. Every Chaos soul will end up back in the warp. And depending on how hard you killed them, they will come back at some point. Every demon you banish will return at some point. Chaos is unstoppable. The warp is unending. And while maybe there is at some point some way to stop them somehow,
gotta be.
the resources to do so, the requirements to do so are so far beyond the reaches of man and the other races at the current moment that really it's just an unstoppable force that just keeps on coming and is just barely being slowed. Chaos is by far the biggest threat. They are without number, their legions are everywhere, and yeah, they're pretty scary. So, I promise, we're done with humans now. Let's talk about some Xenos.
That looks cool.
All right. So, as he said, you can't stop the chaos agents.
And it just makes it feel more chaotic because, like, when you die, you go to the warp,
Right.
and eventually you come back. And so it's like, since everything returns to the warp, it is definitely like, eventually they'll come back. It's undeniable. Is that's undeniable is not the right word. Inevitable.
Yeah.
And to me, that's scary.
Yeah.
That strikes fear.
That it puts a lot of the universe of Warhammer in perspective.
Yeah.
Of why everyone is constantly fighting.
Yeah.
And it's not just to dominate the universe or whatever, but what I'm coming to find is that a good majority of these races, they're just fighting to survive.
Yeah. Because who wants to go to the warp?
Right. Yeah. And so the other thing is, because I don't know, I don't know if the warp is where everyone goes. You know what I mean?
I think that's what he kind of said.
Like, so if you're
But there's different parts of the warp.
Right.
But the warp is still the warp.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is, if you're a good person, you die, like on Earth or Terra or whatever, do you still go to the warp?
But see, that's what he's saying. Like, our mindset of good and bad is not like
yeah, you're right. You're right. So it's a concept that is kind of beyond human knowledge.
For now.
Yeah.
But
right.
I think like this is even opening our minds up because it makes you put like certain things in your life in perspective.
It really does.
Yeah.
Because we're the way we're conditioned from birth is that there's good and bad, there's heaven and hell, right and wrong, and things like that.
Different sides of the coin.
Right, yeah, exactly.
But this is kind of like,
when you die, everybody just goes to the same pit, and it's just whatever. That's crazy.
Yeah. So
I think we're going to go ahead and wrap right here before we jump into the Eldar. I think that might be enough Warhammer for you today.
It's a lot,
What do you think so far?
Very good. Yeah. I feel like it's very expansive.
Yeah, right.
And learning about this, even though this is fictitious, it puts some things like in perspective just for life in general, like how you think about things. Yeah. And how far would you go by the world you live in, because this is a different world and you would have to try to survive. The person you are now, it wouldn't be the person you are in a world like this. And it makes you think about like, how would I change? How would I adapt?
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But are you even adaptable? Are you an adaptable person?
Right. Well, if you don't,
you die.
You die. You're not gonna make it.
And then you go to the warp.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's like we try to avoid that at all costs.
Yeah, exactly.
But it makes me think, like, is there another way? Like, why are things like really like this? is there hope? I feel like
you're still asking that.
I know, but it's fleeting.
Yeah,
my hope
yeah.
is fleeting. Like it's almost non-existent.
So in our next video, when we continue, we're gonna learn about the Eldar. I mean, and as we said, Bricky touched on some of these factions like the Eldar before, which are like the space elves. But this is gonna be a little bit more
very
detailed.
regal looking.
Yeah. Well, that's how elves are. They always think they're better than everybody. You know. But anyway, guys, y'all can leave your thoughts down below in the comment section. Stay tuned. We're going to continue things with the Eldar. As always, like, share, and subscribe. We'll see y'all next time. Take care. Peace.